Imagine yourself standing in the crisp fall air at Arlington National Cemetery, where the stones tell stories of sacrifice and the leaves whisper secrets to the wind. In the pale October sun, the grave of the unknown soldier's tomb sparkles. The weight of a nation's appreciation is engraved into its white marble. Throughout it all, a single soldier remains still and unblinking. His life serves as a monument to the departed. Just picture this. In addition to paying his respects, a king from across the water decides to put the American spirit to the test by visiting that holy space. What happens when crowns face conviction? The moment when the unyielding will that founded this nation collides with its mores. This isn't a fairy tale, so fasten your seatbelts. It's a time that brings us back to the reason we stand strong. Shine or rain, monarch or no monarch. That one day when Arlington did more than hold firm, it redefined it entirely. Stay right here for the rest of this incredible story. Just a quick reminder to hit that bell symbol and to subscribe. We promise to provide you with a new and exciting tale every single day. Please let us know in the comments from where you are watching. Honor, bravery, and sacrifice are timeless values. Let us honor them by keeping their legacy alive. Like the midday sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows across the PTO, the rows of white gravestones stood tall and silent like sentinels. Cemetery wasn't Arlington National Cemetery's only function. The United States moral compass was it. A location where the echoes of battles from Gettysburg to Cobblestone could be heard for miles around. The sightseers strolled silently. There were Ohio families, Texas veterans, and a handful of curious children with maps in their hands that looked like treasure maps. Wet soil and fallen leaves were the dominant scents in the air, the sour flavor of autumn that seems to portend something more profound every year. Amidst it all, the tomb stood tall and proud, encircled by vacant seats in the amphitheater that were reserved for a select few notable individuals. This place was familiar to Sergeant Alex Rivera. After years of desert patrols and training, his 28-year-old physique was robust. He was 6'2", had dark hair cut short under his helmet, and eyes that were like polished obsidian that missed nothing. Alex was born in El Paso to parents who had crossed the border to pursue the American dream. He carried more than just his rifle. Inside his uniform was a faded picture of his older brother Marco, who was 25 when a roadside bomb killed him in Helmand. He was smiling in fatigues. Marco always said, "In this country, mi hermano, we don't kneel to shadows, we stand in the light." That commitment got Alex through Ranger training, through the dusty nights in Afghanistan, and now into the third year of his deployment as a tomb guard. The Society of the Honor Guard is made up of the few people that walk the mat all day, every day of the year, no matter what the weather is like. No flinching, no distractions, simply doing your job. Alex's boots hit the black mat today in ideal time. 21 steps forward, 21 steps back, and exactly 21 seconds to turn around and face the tomb again. His ceremonial M14 rifle was simple to hold in his gloved hands, and the bayonet was fastened like a vow. The throng watched in wonder as the changing of the guard took place. This was a ceremony that had been going on since World War I, when the unknown soldiers from France were buried. But even though Alex was really focused, his mind kept going back to Marco. "You would find this funny, bro. He believed I was a statue for visitors, but it was a heck of a lot of fun." The Thompson family sat down in the front row over to the side. Dad Harlan, 82, was thin as a fence post and leaned on his cane. The poppy from his World War II Pacific battle was still pinned to his lapel. "You see it, Jake?" he whispered to his 12-year-old grandson, his voice rough from years of working in Kansas wheat fields. "That's how real heroes act. Not the capes on TV. Just a man who keeps his word." Jake, who had a lot of freckles and was very curious, nodded with wide eyes while Mom Sarah held Harlan's hand. She had heard similar stories 1,000 times before, but now, with the cold air on her cheeks, they felt new. "Grandpa, do they ever get rain?" Jake spoke softly, and Harlan let out a low laugh. "Son, we've been through hurricanes. Nothing can shake what's inside," the relief commander replied, nodding and humming along with the ritual. He examined Alex's equipment and noted that a clean rifle uniform is unbreakable. Then a low voice spread through the amphitheater. Black SUVs drove up the hill, where flags were snapping in the wind, the Union Jack next to Old Glory. Word got around fast. King Charles III is on a state visit after the G20 conference to honor the alliance by putting a wreath at the tomb. Charles stepped out, 76, but stood up straight, his dark suit perfect, and a row of medals on his breast that shone like lights. with aides and a British attaché on either side of him. He walked with the effortless grace of a monarch, waving to the audience. The cameras clicked, but the air got thicker. This wasn't only a chance to take pictures. Charles was interested in how Americans lived, especially after years of raising a glass to Roosevelt and Churchill. He said to his aide, "Fascinating, these guardians," in a clipped Oxford accent. Colonel Elena Hayes, 45, who was in charge of the guard and had the steel of her own lineage. Her father was a Tuskegee airman who flew over Anio, met him at the base of the steps. So stoic, quite unlike our guys at the palace who manage a discreet bow now and then. She had a lot of African-American roots, from Alabama sharecroppers to West Point graduates, and she wore her uniform like armor. She said, "Your Majesty," and saluted crisply. "Welcome to Arlington. The unknowns from every fight are honored at the tomb." Charles nodded, his eyes betraying genuine interest. "Excellent. Sergeant Rivera here personifies that watch. I'm familiar with the story of your dogged guardians. Legend has it that the guards present a knee to the crown during our Buckingham rituals in recognition of their long service," Helena said with a narrowed gaze. "Sir, our tradition is different. Perhaps your man could demonstrate some of that in exchange for the alliance." Her smile remained unchanged. Standing under the flag, they advocate for equality, exceptions made, no kneeling allowed. Harlan Thompson turned to Sarah and said, "Here we go. It's about the soldier, not the spectator." The audience leaned in, sensing a change in energy, nobility in their slings. While the king and Alex continued their patrol, Jake's eyes darted back and forth between them. Charles paid it no mind, adjusting his cufflinks and drawing nearer to the rope line, while his attendants hovered like shadows. "Just a gesture, Colonel, honoring the sacrifices made by everyone who fought from Normandy to the Battle of the Bulge." Elena considered obeying orders, but ultimately decided against it, saying quietly to Sergeant Rivera, "Stop your post." Foreign dignitaries paid their homage, but Elena felt this was going too far in the interest of diplomacy. "His Majesty requests a ceremonial acknowledgement." Alex stopped in his tracks, rifle at port arms facing the tomb. The amphitheater went completely silent, and in that moment, Charles leaned forward, his voice warm but waiting. "Sergeant, if you would a knee perhaps, to honor the bond between our thrones and your stars." The words hung there, light as a diplomat's jest, yet heavy as history. Alex didn't move or blink. His chest rose and fell steadily, the only thing that showed life in a statue made of will. The crowd held its breath. Harland held onto his cane more tightly. "That's my boy," he said, but the quiet went on for too long, and Charles's smile faded a little. What happened next would be heard far beyond those marble walls. The quiet was like a tight wire across the amphitheater. "Come on, Sergeant," he urged, his voice warm enough to conceal any severity. "It's just a matter of politeness." King Charles, who always appeared serene, tilted his head slightly and arched an eyebrow in mild amazement. "Our lads won't bat an eye when they take a knee in London. In the end, we're bound by tradition, honoring the Queen's memory and paying off the Empire's debts in full." The British aides mumbled something about following the rules, but Elena Hayes glided in with grace, and her speech was as sharp as velvet. "Respectfully, Your Majesty, the watch at Arlington isn't about hierarchies. It is, without a doubt, American. All people, regardless of gender or age, are equal under that flag. Here we go. No crowns, no capes, just duty," the crowd whispered as they sensed the shift. Harlan Thompson spoke to Sarah. "Nobility in their sling." Jake glanced from the king to Alex, who was still on patrol. Charles, unfazed, fixed his cufflinks and advanced toward the rope line, his aides trailing after him. "Just a gesture, Colonel, honoring the sacrifices made by all, from Normandy to the Bulge." Elena paused to consider the procedure, which was precariously balanced. Foreign dignitaries paid their respects, but this went too far, even for diplomatic purposes. "Sergeant Rivera," she whispered, "please, cease your position. His Majesty requests a ceremonial acknowledgement." Alex stopped in his tracks, rifle at port arms facing the tomb. The amphitheater went completely silent, and in that moment Charles leaned forward, his voice warm but waiting. "Sergeant, if you would a knee perhaps, to honor the bond between our thrones and your stars." The words hung there, light as a diplomat's jest, yet heavy as history. Alex didn't move or blink. His chest rose and fell steadily, the only thing that was alive in a statue made of resolve. The crowd held their breath as much as it could. Harland held onto his cane more tightly. "That's my boy," he mumbled. But the pause went on for a long time, and Charles's smile faded a little. What happened next would be heard far beyond those marble walls, the hush in the amphitheater. "Come on, Sergeant," he replied, his voice warm enough to conceal any harshness. "It's just a polite thing to do." King Charles, who always appeared serene, tilted his head slightly and arched an eyebrow in mild amazement. "Our lads won't bat an eye when they take a knee in London." "Her Majesty, the watch at Arlington isn't about hierarchies." The British aides nodded and mumbled something about respecting the rules, but Elena Hayes came in with a voice that was both silky and cutting as a razor, and tradition bound them together. Simply said, "It's American. There is no hierarchy beneath the flag. Everyone is equal." With a life spent dealing with the pomp of Windsor, where a bow could make friends or calm scandals, Charles was determined not to give up easily. "That's right, Colonel," he said jokingly. "But alliances depend on gestures, don't they? No crowns, no capes, just duty." After all, Charles's curiosity had led him through polo fields and palace intrigues. Jake tugged on Harlan's sleeve and asked, "Is the king telling him to bow like in those night movies?" As he nodded obliquely towards the press pool, where cameras flew like hungry eagles, the Thompsons fidgeted in their seats. Harlan's brows sharpened, jaw set like when he rushed Rawa. "No, son." King bowed to knights. "The people are represented by our boys. Watch and learn." Alex's mind had gone back, way back to Kandahar, summer of 2018. The recollection came like a dust storm, but it was clear. He could hear it, rotors pounding through the air, Marco's voice over the radio. Rivera cover left RPG nest at 2 AD. They walked through a wadi, boots sucking sand, when the world blew up. Shrapnel whistled, and Marco, with the Alamo tattoo on his forearm, bore the worst. Alex pulled him 200 yards through gunfire, sleeves soaked with blood. "Hang on, Hermono." Marco's expression turned icy as he grasped Alex's collar. "Listen, young man, we're bringing you back for your mom's tamales," he declared. "In the face of terror, kings, or anything else unworthy of your spine, you must never bow. Stand tall for me, and all of us who can't." The medevac never got there. Alex woke in Walter Reed with metal fastened to his chest, the hole in his spirit still there. That echo gave him energy back on the mat. The only sound breaking silence was the subtle cracking of his grip on the rifle gloves. Charles went a half step forward, crossed the velvet rope with the ease of someone strolling Versailles Gardens. "Sergeant, you're a fine figure of a man. You stand tall and true like our grenadiers." A small salute to the men who battled side by side at Bastonia. "Hey buddy, this isn't the Super Bowl," a man wearing a Packers jacket said to his wife as the crowd mumbled under their breath. The British chuckled, and the Americans shifted uncomfortably. Sarah Thompson peeked over at Harlan and said, "He's pushing it, isn't he? You don't need a touchdown." As an example, consider the times when you would never bow down to the mayor in your native country. "You're damn right," Harlan whispered. "The tomb guard's oath is ironclad, Your Majesty," Elena remarked quietly, leading the way like a tranquil port in a storm. "Insensitive to environmental factors, fauna or humans. This is loyalty." With a mask of concentration on his face, Charles paused to take it all in. "Devotion without display," Sergeant Rivera said, honoring the unknowns, those without names or nationalities bending over themselves. So extremely patriotic. Theatrical flourishes, salutes and curtsies abound in our aisles. I can understand the allure, though. Is it necessary to ask the president personally, or would a salute enough for the sake of nostalgia? "Boy, this is serious." A ripple of laughter broke the tension, Harlan said while Jake chuckled. "Ghosts ride on the shoulders of those soldiers." The flashbacks in Alex's thoughts piled up like sandbags. Dawn runs in sub-zero sleep at the old guard barracks. Teachers yelling, "Blink, break the line, flinch, let the dead down." He had walked 1,000 kilometers in those boots, learned the tomb's writing by heart. "Here rests in honored glory an American soldier known but to God," tattooed on his tongue. Family stories, Abuela's tales of Rio Grande crossing, Pops's factory shifts in Detroit. Letters Marco wrote from boot camp smelled like ink and promise. Marco once wrote, "We're builders, Alex, not bowers." "Sir, maybe we should go to the wreath," the aide said. But Charles turned away, his gaze fixed on Alex like a chess master watching a knight. No, let's not rush." Sweat beaded under his helmet, not from fear but as the fire was going out. The king's remarks were polite radio noise in a world of thunder. "I am captivated by this youthful warrior. Is the silence becoming to you, Sergeant?" The individuals in the amphitheater sensed the tense atmosphere through murmurs, while veterans from Vietnam near the ropes muttered, "Reminds me of Nam." Alex maintained protocol, staring forward with his mouth shut. A mother carrying a child on her hip remarked, "He's not ignoring the king. He's pushing and grunting. I've knelt before popes and presidents, my darling. He's honoring something greater." Charles's voice dipped into a secretive tone. "Knowledge, not frailty, an intermediary between realms. At Yorktown, your flags and stripes were raised high as we huddled together in opposition to the red coats. Are you feeling daring? Excuse me, but bending is for bridges, not guardians," Elena said with conviction. "Fire shaped our traditions. Straight talk, no fluff." Alex remained still as the tension in the air rose to an indescribable level. Harlan spoke to Jake in a low voice, saying, "See that, son? Sergeant, return to your post. For us, that's the boundary. Kings come and go, but duty lasts forever." The child nodded, fist clenched in wonder. Just as tension was about to break, Charles moved closer, shadow across the mat like a gauntlet. "Very well then, if not a knee, a word speak, Sergeant, for king and country intertwined." The crowd held its breath, waiting. Alex's jaw tightened, eyes flared slightly. "Only thing wrong," Marco's voice rang out. "Stand tall." Moment teetered on history's edge. Amphitheater shrank, leaving only the black mat and two men standing still before each other. King Charles's face, usually calm, flashed anger, eyebrows knitted like storm clouds. "Speak, man, a word for the Alliance," for blood mingled from S to Saigon. Press shutters clicked like distant machine guns. Elena Hayes's fingers twitched toward her radio, but she stayed composed. Alex Rivera moved for the first time in hours. Not a flinch, not a bow, but a purposeful pivot, rifle handled with skill of a safecracker. Eyes met the king's. Crowd gasped softly, like wind through Arlington trees. Harlan Thompson jumped, forgot his cane. "Hot damn." Sarah held Jake, jaw open. Neighboring vets stood straight, hands moving to brows instinctively. Alex inhaled deeply, voice low and even. Texas border grit, faint sound of El Paso evenings. "Your Majesty," he said, "this badge doesn't kneel to crowns. Unknowns are what it represents. Those without graves or honor, brothers and sisters. All the way from Bunker Hill to Fallujah, our nation was constructed on level ground. There were no regal procession or low bows, only Americans standing shoulder to shoulder. If that's the bridge you're looking for, sir, we'll cross it with dignity." The words rang out like cannon fire, altering the atmosphere. Charles blinked once, then twice, his royal persona wavering in shock. In a low voice he whispered, "That's the spirit that feels tyrants." There was no response, no command, just a silent nod, as if millennia had bowed to the present. Then it spread like wildfire through the dry grass. 12-year-old Jake Thompson jumped up, heart racing like a bass drum, hands saluting seriously, shaking at the corners. He spoke to his grandpa. Harlan's tears shone unashamedly. 82 years of crisp folding into a salute, like a boot camp. "Damn right for all." Sarah followed, holding her child who waved a tiny fist like a flag. Vets rose in a wave, faded tattoos peeking from sleeves, voices mumbling in agreement. Packer Dad yelled a whoop. Wife joined with a fist pump. Ohio school kids dumped backpacks, stood straight. A British visitor tipped his hat, embarrassed but honest. Dozens saluted, not in protest but in loud respect. Phones stayed down, not for likes, for the past. Elena Hayes felt quiet pride. Commander seeing her line. "We always do it that way." In the midst of a sea of squared shoulders and raised hands, Charles remained motionless. Aides whispered, "Sir, the motorcade," but he stopped them with a raised hand. The scene was shocking, visceral and explosive for a man who had opened Parliament in Queens buried by history. He stepped back from the rope, not to flee, but to observe. "Sergeant Rivera," he said, his voice calming like nations, "you've taught me something today. We show our allegiance in palaces. In this place, you experience it firsthand. No need for elaborate displays. The stance speaks volumes." He extended his hand, not for a handshake but to swiftly grasp the rope, his grip firm and steely. "It is a privilege to stand with you, sir." With a clear voice, Charles addressed the audience. "Ladies and gentlemen of America, I've traveled from windswept moors to your marble halls seeking Bayanu, and in this guardian, Sergeant Rivera, I found it." The touch lasted a moment before breaking. Charles faced the audience with a regal smile, his eyes crinkling like sunlight on the mall. "Back straight to the unknown, to the fire that makes such men," rather than kneeling down. May God reward them. A heartfelt applause echoed through the PTO as a chorus of "Hear, hear" sounded out across the United States. Jake raised his voice in excitement, as Harlan wept with laughter. "That's how you clinch a deal, Your Majesty." Charles remained to observe Alex relinquish the weapon and nodded to Elena. "Colonel, you have a regiment of lions here. No fine print," Elena said with relief. A second guard stepped in without a hitch, and the air was packed with impenetrable energy. She gave a pointed salute and said, "We'll pass it on, sir. Tell your president that the lion and the eagle soar together." "We did it, bro." "Laughter bridges gaps," someone said to a Union Jack waver. "Your boys have guts." Alex leaned against a pillar, helmet under arm, thrill fading. Marco's photo in pocket, weight like a charm. The audience stayed, shared stories. Harlan told Jake about Eumea. The vets whispered with the British skeletons. "That was fantastic, sir," Jake informed Harlan as he hurried to Harlan's side. "Absolutely not, child. You're going to be just like Captain America, only real." Alex gave the child a quiet smile and ran his fingers through his hair. "Not much more than that. You made this old dog proud, son." "Grandpa is the genuine captain," Harlan said while shaking hands with a vice-like grasp. "Sir, Seer Fee, or whatever branch you're in," Harlan chuckled. "Army through and through, but today we're all one." As the sun set, the grave was painted gold, the amphitheater emptied, and salutes faded into the Virginia hills. The moment went viral from D.C. to Dallas, and comments poured in. "America unbent, unbroken." I nodded, my throat tight. "King got a master class in grit." Charles posted, "Humbled at Arlington, standing with sentinels teaching kings to stand taller." Arlington breathed easy. Job done. Line held. Motorcade taillights slipped away in golden haze. Arlington watched over the dead forever. Sergeant Alex Rivera on amphitheater steps, chills sinking like old friends. Audience shrank, families putting on coats, veterans giving one last salute. Jake waved angrily from distance, Harlan's arm around him. Sarah took photo of Alex against marble, not the king. "Harlan, we'll tell this one at Thanksgiving." Alex raised hand. Quiet Roger lost to wind. Fire Marco kindled, still smoldering. One stand stabilizing 1,000 souls. Colonel Elena Hayes approached with purpose, clipboard tucked like a weapon. "You did that like London is contacting the Pentagon." Impressive conversation. Alex modestly shrugged and said, "It wasn't for show, ma'am." She expressed her gratitude by clasping my shoulder and said, "That's why it worked. Just the oath." Her eyes gleamed with the language of shared duty. "That is a lesson for kings." "I hope so," Alex said, nodding toward the tomb guard as he said, "I'm sure your brother is watching," grinning ear to ear. "Indeed, everyone does." In a secret letter to the president, Charles wrote, "Your sentinel reminded me, true sovereignty lies in steadfast, not spectacular." The news spread like wildfire, and by day's end, clips of the Arlington stand, slow-motion salutes, and voiceovers from Hart were trending. Cable pundits dug into the story, and there was a chance to learn about transatlantic ties. The story was featured in the Times. As usual, Alex's night in the barracks went smoothly. Check. MRE Chili Mac. Tasted like winning. Sleep with ghosts. Locker kept Marco's photo, smiling, staying forever. We stood Hermano for the unknowns. The Thompsons are in a rented car in Kansas, and Jake won't stop talking. "Grandpa, when I grow up, I'll be a guard like him." It's easy for him to fall asleep, but he has no dreams. The sound of his boots hitting the mat echoes in his heart. "Listen, Jake. No kneeling," Harlan said while laughing and patting his knee. "Not consistent. It may be a man or a woman inside," Sarah said with a smile from behind the wheel. "Don't sell short." Car hummed toward Arlington Beltway. Lesson riding shotgun. October afternoon wasn't about fighting or rejoicing. Reminder carved in stone. Memory at Arlington. Power not asked for, defended step by step. U.S. and allies like Britain. Dance differently, yet succumb to beat of liberation. Next time in U.S., walking sacred places, feel weight, ask, how will you stand before history's heavy hand? Thank you for being a part of the narrative. If you were moved, please share. Until we meet again, stay strong.